Hello and welcome back to another episode of Doctor in a Bikini. This is the first episode in the new podcast cave. No more being in an apartment, having to shimmy my computer to look a certain way and then making it look like I have a background, like I had a house. No, there's a house now. So yes. And if you've been following my journey, I have been taking pictures of the room so far, posting it on Instagram, all the shenanigans, asking for your feedback about what I should include. So as you watch my videos, because I am live on YouTube right now, you'll see the evolution of the Doctor in Bikini podcast cave. I really hope that's not echoey right now because I've got like cardboard boxes and blankets to try and dampen the sound because I don't really have furniture aside from this new standing desk and the little chair that I put together that I got half off. So man, thank you for being patient with me. I know that it's been 3 weeks without an episode, which if you're like me and you listen to other podcasts, because I do, gosh, I envy people that they can say that they've never missed a week because in reality, I, just like you, have a lot going on. And sometimes certain balls can bounce and certain ones break. So I just had to rely on my faith and the support of the people who love me in the podcast and give myself the reassurance that a few weeks wasn't going to be the detriment of the podcast. So thank you for those who sent me little notes of encouragement saying, I can't wait for another episode. We're waiting, because it's so easy to be like, man, do people even really want to listen, But I'm very quickly humbled and corrected when y'all message me like, what the heck? I drove to work this morning without Doctor in a Bikini. I'm like, I'm so sorry. But I promise today's episode will be worth it because I'm going to share so much with you all. There's some stuff that technically I probably shouldn't share. So that stuff I'm going to give you like a little Easter egg. Like, I'll start with that one. So I just got off of the phone with somebody that I've been in contact with for the last few years. So if you know me, you might low-key know what I'm talking about, or if you've been following Instagram, technically you would know what I'm talking about. I just have been quieter about it. But let's just say, here's my little Easter egg. The podcast may be on a bus next spring. That's all I'm going to say. So be on the lookout for that. But we're here today to talk about life updates. I'm going to tell you all about some of the house plans. I'm going to tell you stuff that I had in my reading because I had my very first ever, which some of you listening are probably going to be like, what the heck? You have officially graduated to crazy psychic lady. Yes, I had my first psychic reading and it literally blew my mind. This is someone who I listened to their podcast, Know Your Aura by Mystic Michaela. I've listened to her for years. I'm a big proponent of using certain tools to help understand ourselves and others better. And that's really what her podcast has taught me. So if you don't give her a follow, if you don't follow her, make sure to give her a follow. I've learned a lot about myself and about other people. I feel like I need to keep my voice low because I feel like the more excited I get, the quicker I talk and the louder I talk. So then it gets more echoey in here. So I am so sorry if that's the case, but I'm going to do my best to keep it down, keep it calm. I'm just really excited to be here because it's been weeks. It's like catching up with a friend over coffee that you haven't seen in a couple months. And you're like, girl, I have so much to tell you. That's how it is right now for me. Oh gosh. Okay. Side note, anyone watching the live right now, I'm wearing my Olympia shirt and it kind of has to do with today's topic as well. I'm not going to get too squirrely, I promise, but I am so pumped for the Olympia in 4 weeks. I feel like it's such a motivating time. If you're like me and you're in your off season already, I think it's, oh gosh, I had a little hiccup there. I'm so not usually like a live person either. Like usually I just do live on Instagram and that's pretty easy because it's bouts. But girl, being on YouTube for like an hour, it's like, what if you got to go pee? What if you had to burp on camera? Like just no one talks about these things. Okay. And for those of you listening in your car, I'm so sorry. Buckle up because this is like Shannon ADD on steroids, but I'm a natural athlete, so not on steroids. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. I'm so pumped. I'm wearing this shirt. I just can't wait. We're going to get into that, like the competing realm here in a little bit. But first, life updates. So if you haven't been following me on Instagram, you might not know that Connor and I, before USA's, we had done a walkthrough and we put our money down on our first home ever. It was a spec home, so it moved really quickly. We have been waiting to move into a house for years. So I'm literally just thriving on life right now. I'm just so excited. So many things are coming to fruition, and I just feel really good about everything, despite me taking a break right now from competing until next year. And that's kind of like the episode, The Power of Letting Go. Sometimes you have to trust that it's time to focus on life things, and it's okay. What is waiting for you is still waiting for you. Just like this podcast, it's still waiting for me, right? Life comes first. We come first. So before my last show of the season, I said, no matter what, this is going to be my last show of the year because I just need to prioritize on life. I'm excited about us getting into a home. My 30th birthday was coming up, which it passed since the last podcast episode. Just so much. So we did close on our house. We moved in, hence the podcast cave that I'm in. And I did have my 30th birthday here, so I got to host. If you know me, I also love to host. I love Halloween, so it was the Death to Your 20s theme, which I swear I'm going to go hipster on you right now. I've been wanting to do that before it was cool. So I had like a Scream theme because that's my favorite horror series. I love a lot of horror, but for some reason, I could watch Scream 1 through 6 on a Sunday doing laundry, and I'm happier than a clam. I don't know what that says about me and my childhood trauma. why I think that that's relaxing, but it is. I love Ghostface. I love Scream. Don't know why, I just do. So I had like a Scream mask. I had like the glittery knife, and I did the little stab of the little small cake. If you saw the little video, I did the stab with the plastic knife, and because there was fondant on the top, the knife just went like whoop, which was hilarious. So we got that on camera. So that was the birthday. That morning, I'll just get into the reading here. Oh my gosh. So I had been on Michaela's wait list for 2 years to get a reading. She is someone that I just trust. She's very authentic. I didn't feel nervous because I knew that she wasn't going to be like you're going to die in 5 years, or like you will for sure have this major change, look out, or like you've been cursed. Like you hear horror stories, and like I'm not messing with anything weird. I just want help on tools on developing myself in my life and better understanding certain things and getting some fun insight on some life things. And that is what I got. So I'm like, how in depth do I want to go here? Because some of y'all, I don't want to lose you by getting too specific, but little summary. So for me, I have what's called like a tricolor aura. So I'm a purple, yellow, blue. You'll notice in the podcast, obviously, the colors are kind of purple and bluish. So it's interesting because when I created the podcast, I was coming from a very authentic space, a very creative space, and I was putting all of my heart and soul into it. So my purple, in normal human terms, it's kind of like the more fun, outgoing, creative side. They're very like psychic and intuitive. Blue is very empath, very feelings oriented. And then yellow, my third color, is very organized, regimented. So you can see how some of those things in prep could be helpful. Like I love to say my stage version of my personality is very purple. So I love to just put it out there. I love to have fun. That's where like my creative flow comes in on stage. The regimented yellow, the structure side of me appreciates prep because it's easier to have a plan or to have a reason in place or something to follow and be consistent with. And then the blue is very feelings based. So like when you see me on stage, I've mentioned in previous episodes when I was working on receiving better or receiving recognition, or if I get a little like quiet and to myself, that's kind of like my more blue. So, and ironically on the Instagram poll where I said, what should I add to the office here? One of the things that got brought up was I should have like a flower wall and a neon sign. So this kind of relates to the reading a little bit too. I've never mentioned the podcast, but I just mentioned on Instagram today. Part of why I chose purple, one, yes, it is my favorite. I did not realize that it was one of my aura colors when I created it, but it did make sense that I was creating something that was authentically me, and then naturally my colors got put in there. I don't know. Like I said, I either lost half of you or half of you were like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. This makes so much sense. So interesting to listen about. So if you're here for it, stay. If not, you can leave. That's okay. I won't be offended. So it's interesting because I was listening to what felt authentic to me at the time. Competing was a very pivotal point for me because in a sense, it's like a rebirth. And some of you can relate to that when you pour yourself into this new goal, something you've never done before, you're kind of like reinventing the wheel, right? Especially something that's so consuming, like competing, starting a business, something that is creative and it allows you to step into this version of yourself that is a level up, right? So during that time, I was also creating the podcast because starting competing wasn't enough. I was like, let's do a podcast too. And I didn't know that was a thing. And I don't think there's a lot of bikini podcasts out there, but there are some. I had just literally never heard of one, but I just felt the need to share some of the very real struggles in my life because I was like, I know that other people deal with these things too, in their job, in the sport, whatever. So another thing that I didn't really mention before, I chose purple because of my late grandmother, she passed away during one of the lowest years of my life. And I've mentioned that before lightly, but a lot of stuff happened and I lost multiple people. I had a huge failure that year. I had a huge life change that year. It was just a rough year. I learned a lot, but so my grandmother, purple was always her favorite. And I love my grandmother. And her name was Lillian. So of course I think of her when I see lilies, right? So if I see a purple lily somewhere, like a tattoo or something. So when they mentioned the podcast prompt, you should have a flower wall and a neon sign, I thought, oh my gosh, that would actually be really fun. The wall behind me that you see, it's going to be, thumbs up. It's going to be black, I think. Who knows? Plans change. It's going to be black, textured. And then Connor's going to make me a neon sign right to where I'm pointing. And then behind me is going to be 2 chairs for future podcast guests in person. So it's going to be a whole thing. So it's a very consistent space for me to do the posing prehab clients and podcast episodes. So I actually have my first client, well, not my first client, one of my first in-person clients, I should say, coming to this space next week. So we're going to do a whole video on how I can help competitors with their posing as a physical therapist, because as someone who specializes in dance, and if you see me posing on stage, you can tell that's kind of my jam. I decided to use both strengths, being a physical therapist and being a competitor, how to best help people with identifying what impairments they might have or what limitations, and then giving them programs based off of that. So this is where that magic will happen as well. So yeah, that little prompt about the colors and the vibe and the sign and all that, it's been really cool to put together. So my grandma actually had gotten brought up in the reading, which was really cool. I guess I'll start there. So actually, no. So at the beginning of the reading, it was so funny. Michaela, she goes, is there something that you've been putting off or you haven't been doing the last few weeks? If you're looking at me in the camera, I'm like, when she said that, I just kind of laughed. I was like, yes. And she goes, because your guides, like, they're telling me to give it to you straight. And they're kind of like shaking a finger in your face, like, don't stop doing that. And she's like, what is it that you haven't been doing the last few weeks? And I was like, I stopped recording on my podcast the last few weeks. And she said, well, and I told her, I said, with us moving into the new home, I really wanted to focus on like creating the space and being present in my life. And when that happened, like I said at the top of the episode, certain balls got dropped, right? The ones that I trusted would not break. And for me, that meant prioritizing my family, that meant prioritizing nesting our home and really enjoying this special time in our lives where we get to create our home together and invite people into our home and celebrate a birthday and just live, because so much of the year is so regimented for me. And I love that too. I really do. You heard me talking about my yellow, but my blue really wanted to connect to my sense of family and friends and redesigning everything. I just, I think there's something to be said in, yes, maybe it's valuable showing out or putting out content, or let's say, sure, you can keep showing up and doing another show, or you can regroup, recharge, and come back better. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to trust that taking a break from the podcast. As a result, I've also taken a few weeks off of the gym. I got sick during that time. I didn't even have a gym membership anymore because the one that I was going to that I love so much, it's 45 minutes from our new house. So my sense of routine on top of certain kitchen items being packed, it was just gone. There was no routine. I went from regimented yellow prep Shannon from January to beginning of August to just no plan. And I'm not saying that that's advisable, but I am saying that that's where I was at in my stage of life, and it felt right. And I think if you're in a place where, that's again, title of the episode here, if you're in a place where you need to take a break from competing, or maybe you still have a show, but you just need a week for yourself, for your family, it's not going anywhere. I promise. What is meant for you will happen. It's okay to hibernate, to be quiet, to silence your phone. We need to prioritize the things that are important to us. And sometimes it's not how we think, So that was really funny that my guides kind of were like, tell her it's okay to be taking a break, but not to stop. So here I am, spirit guides, coming back better than ever. I promise I'm here. So that was really interesting. She said a lot of very specific things about my childhood that no one would know because I've never vocalized it, because they were like inner child feelings and wants and desires. So that was really interesting. And she actually explained the posing prehab program, and it was really neat. And I don't want to go too in depth because I don't want to lose y'all. It was really neat just to get the support and the reassurance from I don't want to offend anybody, from my angels, my spirit guides, from God, from our higher self, whatever, whoever. It was really reassuring and comforting to hear from, I'm just going to say, my guardian angels, the things that I want to do, they support me doing, and they want to make sure that I don't quit because they feel like that's what aligns with me and that's what will help people. And yeah, so that was just a really powerful message. And it gave me a sense of confidence that, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but how sometimes there's things we want to do in life and there's things that we believe we can do, but then sometimes that inner ego voice is like, is that just a crazy dream? Or will you make it happen? My favorite thing that my little voices of doubt like to say, it's like, Shannon, you're really good at the ideas, but the action, you got to make sure the action's there. Don't just have the good ideas. So I think sometimes I get caught in that. Is this just a really good idea? And am I going to follow through on this? Is this too big of a dream that I can plan for? And being purple, again, really niche audience. If you are still following me, you are, I'm trusting that my people are here. And if you're watching the video, I hope that the mannerisms make sense if you're watching me. If you're listening to me, you're probably like, girl, did you take your ADD medication today? Which like I said, I'm just excited to be here. There's so much to tell you all. And I genuinely love being here and sharing some of these life things, because I think I'm really convinced that the people listening, you've been here too, where you felt like you've dropped the ball on something. And it is so easy to feel like a failure when you stopped something for a few weeks. Maybe you wanted to be a creator on social media. Maybe you started this business idea and it wasn't what you thought it would be. Maybe you are starting your fitness journey and you're like, oh, I was good for a few days and then I just stopped. I'm here to tell you that even the most successful or seemingly successful people take breaks, need breaks, fail, stop, change the plan, all the above. I can't tell you how many times that I have thought something was going to go a certain way and it just didn't. And when I said earlier, the podcasts that I listened to, the varying ones, almost all of them love to highlight how consistent they were, or, how many pounds they've been within post show, what percent body fat they've been in post show. And it's so easy to stack up our own success against all these other people we see who are allegedly very consistent. They are super regimented. They never miss a day. I'm here to say I miss days sometimes, guys. I miss weeks sometimes, but you know what? I feel successful because I'm following my heart and I just believe that everything works out. So I hope that that's reassuring for you today, because sometimes I think that that is successful, trying to be your most well-rounded, authentic self. That's what it's all about. So let's see, what else in the reading can I tell you about that won't be totally boring? Ooh, okay. Whew. Hot topic here. So I don't know if this would have gotten brought up on the podcast, and I'm so sorry for my family members that are listening if this is like sad news for you. Again, if you're watching the video, I'm like, she's gonna go here. I don't know. We don't know if we're having kids. That's just where we're at in life right now. Who knows? I'm not psychic. I don't know if we're having kids. And there's a lot of factors that go into that, but it's interesting because Mystic Michaela, she said, so my grandma and my cousin Sam, who I lost tragically, they were ushering forward this boy that apparently if we do decide to have kids, because she was big on nothing is set on stone, the future changes all the time, but she sensed this like really excitable little boy energy that was like ready to come into the world. I shared that with Connor. I was like, how do you feel about that? Knowing, because I truly believe in what she shared with me, because a lot of the specifics, again, about my life and about my loved ones were just too things I haven't even vocalized to Connor or vocalized to myself that she just nailed on the head. And I was like, that's right. I did feel that way. I am that way. Or that is something I've been planning in my head without telling anybody, So I trust that the stuff she was saying was on point. And I'll share a couple random things about my loved ones here. But I said to Connor, I was like, how do you feel about looking at this fork, knowing it's either no kids or there's apparently this excitable little mini you that's ready to come to the world? And he's like, what's so wrong with that? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just saying, I think I would have been more convinced if she said a little girl was waiting for us, but a little boy just sounds like, oh, that's a lot of energy. So that was weird. I didn't ask her that. It was in the beginning of the reading after the whole spirit guides shaking their finger at me that allegedly, if we decide there's a boy that's ready to come into the world. And she said, like, I'm telling you, if you have one oopsie, this is the one. And she said she sensed multiple kids around us if we choose that. So I don't know. We'll see. Right now there is no plan, but everyone says once you get into a house, I don't know. So there's that little factoid for you. But my grandma, who I mentioned earlier, it was really interesting. Her personality showed through. Like I mentioned my purple side, my artsy side. My grandma was literally a professional artist. And she was fabulous. Okay, let me tell you. She was born to be a star. She, was larger than life. So Michaela said, oh my gosh, she's so proud of you. She wants you to know that she fully supports what you're doing. And she's kind of joking, like, she got this from me. So it was just a lot of the mannerisms that she shared. It just felt so good to get confirmation from spirit and support from low key, one of my inspirations of the design of the podcast with the color. And I do feel like I'm channeling her when I'm being artsy. So that was really cool. And I got some really beautiful closure with the cousin that I lost. So that was just a really cool experience. And the timing of it, listen, I only got the reading because I decided to full send it and ask her to come on the podcast. And because of the long wait list, they just happened to bump me to my 30th birthday weekend right after I moved in. And let me tell you, if you're not a believer in the universe, all these spiritual things that meant like ending of a goal were coming to fruition, which was like the whole time, like when it rains, it pours. All of the goals happened at once between concluding the season, our house closing, my birthday, full moon crap, like just, okay. I'll hop off the spiritual train for those of you that are here strictly for bodybuilding content. But a lot of you reached out and actually wanted to know about life, and that's what's been going on. So hopefully that was entertaining for y'all to listen to. But I do want to circle back to the actual title of the episode. So I have said that obviously I took an emotional step down from the season, right? I'll recap for some of you that maybe this is your first episode you're listening to, which Lord help you. And not that I'm like super religious. I just thank you for being here. Do y'all ever watch, okay, I'm writing this out. Y'all ever watch Princess Diaries? How they're like, thank you for being here today. Whoo! This is where I need Connor to be in here, because then he'll reel it in and he'll be like, all right, Shannon, back on the topic. So I took an emotional step down from the season, is what I was getting to. If you weren't here for previous episodes, obviously, yes, there was so much to be proud about and so much to be excited about. And that's really all I think of when I look back on this season. But in the moment, yes, if you think of the very shallow, superficial goal of you won your pro card or you didn't win your pro card. Sure, I didn't win my pro card. So there was the bummer of being so close and not winning it, right? But I held true to my line in the sand, which was, this will be the last show of the year because life is important for me right now. And prep is always there. Prep is a big part of my life. I love it so much, but I love life too. And I love my people too. And I wanted to create the time and the space for that. And I think there's something so beautiful when you let go, when you say, you know what? I don't know how long this off season is going to be. I don't know when the next show is, but I trust that it's all going to work out. And I trust that I'm going to come back better. And when you fully let go and believe in that, there's just something so fulfilling in trusting that. And that's what I'm here to say is, despite me not having a prep plan in place, I'm eating intuitively. My workouts have been all over the place. Things have not been perfect. I've barely practiced posing. But you know what? I think the sanity here is, this is the first year where I have truly just trusted. I don't stress about how I look that morning. I don't get nervous about what I'm eating. I'm not hyper fixated on bloating. I'm not upset that I got sick or that my steps aren't on point. I think when we give ourselves the grace that we need, no matter what, we're going to come back better because we are showing up as the best version of ourselves for that next phase in life. So I hope, especially with the Olympia coming up, and I know there's some people that they're still going strong. You know, maybe they're doing nationals in December. Maybe they're doing the Ben Weider Natural Classic in November. Shout out to Lindsay. Hold on, I'm going to take some water here. Sorry for my audio only listeners. That is like the one consistent thing I've been, is drinking water. That's literally, I told Sally when I did my check-in yesterday, which I'll circle back around to that too. I told her, I was like, I feel like such a guilty little like Catholic child, because technically I was baptized Catholic, but I was like, I feel like a little guilty Catholic here because almost every single thing on there was like, did you get this? No, but I did do this. Did you get this? No, but I did do this. Or this was better than last week. And I think it's so easy when we're in a place where, yes, we've let go, that we're nervous about maybe disappointing our coach, or we think, oh my gosh, they're going to think that I'm slacking off, or, oh, like, am I going to spill over in this off season because, I feel like I'm being a total jerk with my plan, like eating off plan, not walking enough, obviously there's factors you can control. Don't go totally off the handle. Just control some things. Like I said, water right here. It's like, you know what? I didn't perfectly get all the plan, but here's the things that I did make an effort towards. And that makes a difference, right? So while I'm talking about feeling guilty and feeling meh about check-ins, again, if you follow me on Instagram, I shared screenshots of my check-in yesterday. And I'll be honest, I did my check-in and I felt what we call in this house, cranker pants. I felt so, for no reason, cranky, grumpy, sad after my check-in. And I told Connor, I was like, I've been pretty fair on myself, but right when I started doing posing in my heels and my check-in, it's like this other pressure from within was on myself because I was like, oh, I don't look a certain way, or gosh, I felt good about myself until I put on the bikini. And I think when we feel that way, I challenge you to dig a little deeper and understand where that emotion comes from. That way, it's not this unhealthy relationship between you and the sport. Because honestly, I've said this before, it has nothing to do with the sport. It has everything to do with you, if that makes sense. So it's not the bikini's fault that I felt some sort of way when I put on the bikini and heels. It's that I tend to be too hard on myself. It's that I tend to fixate on certain things like we all do. So my pro tip here, take the pictures. Don't worry about taking the perfect picture. Take a few, but limit yourself, and then walk away. I don't submit my check-in right away. Walk away, circle back a few hours later. I promise you, once you have had the time for some coffee, some positive thoughts sorry, I keep like burping or hiccuping. I cannot be the only podcaster that gets on a live. It's like your digestive system is like, hey girl. I promise you, give yourself a few hours for logic to set in and less emotion ruling thoughts. Almost every single time when I've done that, I look back at the photo and I'm like, oh, I did not look as bad as I thought I did. That was me being mean to myself and having unrealistic expectations of me looking show ready 7 weeks out from my last show. And you'll notice I don't share a whole lot on social media. I'm only X amount of pounds this weeks out. One, because I don't want to give people a false narrative of how they should look or should feel after a show. But two, I also know that my body has been different every single time. So not only do I feel like it doesn't help others, but it doesn't help me to fixate on, and this is me personally, some people, they're very data oriented. So if that's you, please do not let what works for me influence what I think other people should be doing. But for me, I said earlier, I'm very intuitive based, right? That's my purple blue. I'm a big feelings person. So I like to understand what I'm feeling. I like to understand why I'm feeling that way. So what does that look like in the sport? That comes to, what did I learn from an experience? How did the show make me feel? Why am I feeling cranky after my check-in? Why am I feeling sad? Where does that come from? How can I change this? How can I do better? So some of those strategies like letting go, right? Stepping away, saying no, creating boundaries in my life, stepping away for a couple hours after I've done photos and videos instead of zooming and looking and thinking, oh, I should have twisted more. Shoot, I didn't engage my core enough. Dang it, my glute doesn't look, you know what I mean? Like if you've been there before, you know exactly what slippery slope I'm talking about. And then you get frustrated. So I had to have a little pep talk. I had to verbally out loud say things that I felt were helpful and productive for me. I feel like I was going somewhere with that and I can't remember, but my point being, as far as sharing stuff on social media, I have just found that because I'm feelings based, I will share maybe things like side by sides that you saw on my Instagram today, or if this is Monday, I guess, and if you're not watching the live, then you've probably seen me do side by sides. Like I said, 7 weeks post show of my 2024 season. of the last show. And then I said, or versus 7 weeks post 2023 season. And I compared those, me versus me. I'm not looking at pounds. I'm not looking at body fat percentage. I'm not looking at my macros. I'm talking about, sure, how did I look between these phases in my life? And more importantly, how did I feel? And how was life for me at that time? Because I think if you are like me and you have goals of being in the sport for a long time, I know people say it's you versus you, but to reframe that a bit, it's you versus you, even in the mental space, emotionally. How have you grown? How have you been able to manage these things in your life? Can you let go? Can you trust yourself to go off plan for a bit and not be super hypercritical of yourself? Does that make sense? I feel like being away for 3 weeks, I may be rambling a bit more. So I'm so sorry if I'm not as concise, but in general, I wanted to hop on here today to say, 1, I'm alive. 2, it's okay to take breaks, even if you're in a very public space like I am. And I'm trying to be better about sharing because I know it is kind of exciting to see like the creation of a space or moving into a home, but I'm just really excited, yes, about all the change, but I'm also really proud of being able to let go and to just be and exist. And I hope that you all can get that from today's episode, because whatever you're wanting, it's not going anywhere. Whatever feels authentic to you, that's what's right. Not what I'm doing, not what your favorite influencer is doing, not what Miss Olympia is doing, which, oh, actually, you know what? Jennifer Dory is doing exactly what I'm saying. She's taking a break. So let that be example. If Dr. in Bikini isn't enough for you, even Jennifer Dory takes a break from being a reigning champion to step away and focus on life. And if she can do it, you can too. Oh man, how do I even follow up with that? Because that's the mic drop right there. I mean, forget what I'm doing. Like, listen to what she's doing, right? But no, I know a lot of y'all that I see and interact with have been sick, have had life changes, have just stepped off the stage. So I just felt like this message would be really relevant, because I know for me, it's really easy to be hard on myself about what I'm not doing versus focusing on the fulfillment within my life. And I feel like lately that hasn't been as hard to do. So yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other updates. I told you all the little Easter egg. I told you about the psychic reading. And if you made it this far, I love you even more. Oh, balloons. Let's see. Oh, I will say, I guess while we're on the topic, I am likely, what I mentioned with the whole bus thing earlier might might change things, but I am likely doing junior nats again next spring. Potentially, I think it'd be cool to do a show I've never done. So I may also do junior USAs right before, but we will see. Life is fluid, as we talked about today. And yeah, today's me short and sweet. I just wanted to hop on here and show you all my space. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for supporting me and hopefully laughing at my crazy train, because like I said, I'm here to be authentically me and just to pour my life into this microphone. So I hope that you all have a fulfilling, authentic week, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.